All right, let's talk Los Angeles Chargers. It has been one outstanding offseason for the Chargers. Of course, nailing down Jim Harbaugh as the next head coach puts this team in the right direction. Chargers have been making a lot of big moves, and this recent weekend was no different. We got a lot of exciting news for the Chargers, a lot of great hires. Let's pull up the report, and then we'll talk about it in detail on the other side. A lot of great stuff to go through. All right, the first one, Tony Garcia of the Detroit Free Press reports that defensive backs coach Steve Clinkscale will make the move to Los Angeles. He is set to have the same title with the Chargers. Clinkscale, who also had the co-defensive coordinator title, spent 3 years with the Wolverines, Michigan Wolverines. He also coached at Kentucky, Cincinnati, and Illinois earlier in his career. Here was the big news a lot of Chargers fans may or may not have heard. Adam Schefter of ESPN reports that former 49ers linebacker, superstar linebacker, Navarro Bowman has been hired as the linebackers coach of the Chargers. Bowman will be working for Jim Harbaugh, who was one of his coaches with the 49ers and who is in his first weeks as the Chargers head coach. And finally, to round it out, kind of an interesting move, but I think a really smart one. New Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh will keep former coach Brandon Staley's special teams coordinator in place. Ryan Ficken will remain the Chargers special teams coordinator for 2024, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. The 43-year-old Ficken has been the Chargers special teams coordinator since 2022. All right, a lot of big moves there, a lot of kind of smart under the radar moves there from the Chargers, a lot of great stuff to go into. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but first, Chargers fans, in the comment section below. Look, we're feeling some momentum, feeling some energy right now as LA gets ready for the offseason. But as you look and look, we're going into free agency, but I want you to focus on your own roster. What's the one player right now that you think the Chargers have to get rid of? A little addition by subtraction, if you will. A guy you think the Chargers should trade or cut. Give us that guy in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on all this news involving the Los Angeles Chargers?
Yeah, Nick. I think first of all, looking at the signings by the Chargers for the coaching staff, there's a lot of great moves and a lot of makes sense. Jim Harbaugh, he wants to be comfortable. He wants guys around him that he knows are on board with him. That's obvious. And Clinkscale, a guy that he's been with for a while. They work together at Michigan. Makes a lot of sense there. The other one is why fix something that isn't broken with Chargers special teams coordinator Ryan Ficken. He seems good, longtime guy. I believe before Chargers, he was with the Minnesota Vikings for like 15 years. He was there for forever. So that's a guy, he knows the special teams position. Let's keep that rolling. Now, I think the Navarro Bowman signing is the most interesting to me because I think this is a sign or a position rather of weakness for the Chargers. You look at Eric Kendricks. He's a pretty solid linebacker, I would say. But then they had Kenneth Murray, who they decided not to pick the fifth-year option on. So he's going to be a free agent. I doubt that they sign him back. He really has been quite unimpressive since he's been drafting, grading at or below a 50 every year in his PFF grades. That 2021 year, he graded a 34. So, I mean, he's really been unimpressive at the linebacker position. Who does Jim Harbaugh pick up? A guy he knows is a fantastic linebacker. A guy he knows is absolutely a superstar, as you alluded to. He knows the linebacker position inside and out. This is a guy that can help them bring that linebacker position back to greatness for the Chargers. I think this is going to be big for them going forward because I think, this defense has a lot of great players. Obviously, know the D-line is set. Mack, Tuliopatu, Bosa, they're very, very good. The back end, Derwin James and Gilman, they're also very, very good. You get some good linebackers in there, maybe one corner or so. I think this defense is set to dominate for a long time. So I think getting a good linebacker in there, I think the Navarro Bowman signing to me really speaks out as the most important signing for this Charger out of the group of three that we just talked about. I think he's going to make a lot of great moves. And again, a guy familiar with Jim Harbaugh, obviously, coach played under him for a very, very long time. So I think this is a great signing by the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, especially with the top two guys. I look in historical comparisons. I'm a big fan of NFL history, and I think the greatest turnaround artist in NFL history was Bill Parcells. He obviously won 2 Super Bowl titles with the New York Giants, but what he did later in his coaching career, he went to the Patriots, who at the time were just a dead. They were laughing stock, took them to the Super Bowl. Shortly thereafter, he went to the New York Jets, who were the worst team in football, took them to the AFC title game just in 2 short years. Then he went to the Dallas Cowboys, who had 3 straight 11-loss seasons, took them immediately to the playoffs. Like greatest turnaround artist in NFL history, Bill Parcells was. And what he always did, every step he made sure when he was changing the culture, turning around the team, he made sure he brought his coaches and some players as well that were his guys who bought into his belief set, his culture, his system. And that's exactly what Harbaugh is doing here. I think it's a really smart move because, again, you're trying to change the culture, trying to change the environment. Because, like you said, there is some talent there. They just need to right the ship and kind of go basically 180 degrees the other direction than where Staley was taking them. The one exception, though, is a special teams coach. And I think this is a really smart move, a great job by Jim Harbaugh. Because when we hear the name Harbaugh in the NFL, we think, of course, John Harbaugh with the Baltimore Ravens, who he made his money in the NFL first as a special teams guy. So sometimes we say, oh, Jim Harbaugh was the same. Not at all. Jim Harbaugh was much more an offensive guy as he rose through the college ranks before going to the San Francisco 49ers. He does not know nearly as much about special teams as his brother John Harbaugh does. Nothing wrong with that. That's just reality. And then when you throw in the fact that Jim Harbaugh spent the last however many years, 6, 7 years at the University of Michigan, right? Special teams is obviously much different in college football. The hashes are different. They're wider in college football. So that changes the kicking game, right? Extra points, things like that. There's different rules. There's different strategies in play. You need an NFL guy to understand that discrepancy, especially right out the gate. I love Harbaugh sticking with a guy who's obviously knows special teams in the NFL at a high level. I thought the one risk that Harbaugh may have done is he would have gone with a college special teams coach. And again, different rules, different strategies, right? College fans, you guys see the spread punt kind of stuff. You don't see that in the NFL for obvious reasons. So again, bringing or keeping an NFL special teams guy on, I think is probably the sneaky smart move in all these hires. But I think in general, we see a clear and effective strategy coming from Harbaugh. And I tell you what, Chargers fans, you got to be excited with the direction this team is going. Obviously, there's some big moves that are going to have to be made to address the actual talent on the roster itself. But I think in terms of the coaching staff and the strategy, the Chargers are in a pretty good place.